Alright guys, so this is my rental for my week stay here in Arizona. It's a 2015 Dodge Journey. The trim is the SXT trim. As you can see, it's got fog lights, alloy wheels. This thing is pretty well equipped. I've actually been really surprised with it. Go ahead and open up the rear. As you guys can see, the seats do all fold down flat. And you do have third row seating, cup holders in the back, cargo tie downs, 12-volt power jack. And under here, you just have your owner's manual, tire change kit, cargo net, as well as a donut. Not a full-size spare in the back. It does have dual exhaust, roof racks on top. It's kind of funny, when I first picked this car up from the rental car company, I originally first thought this thing was a caravan, and it was either this or a Chevy Impala. And you told me it was a Journey, and I was like, are you sure it's a Journey? Because the front end looked a lot like a caravan. I would have driven the caravan anyways, but you know. Go ahead and pop the hood. This is the 3.6 liter V6. It's actually a great little motor. These things produce a good amount of power. They compete with the 3.6 that GM has, as well as the 3.7 that Ford has. They all produce around the same horsepower and torque. There's really not that much of a difference between the three. It's paired with a 6-speed automatic transmission. Fun fact, the 4-cylinder version of this thing is still sold with a 4-speed automatic. Thought that was really interesting. But this one's got, you know, all the power options. Steering wheel mounted audio and cruise controls, as well as push button start. Motor's pretty responsive. It's got a lot of pickup to it. Here's the shifter, as well as manual gear selection. Another interesting fact about the manual gear selection is, unlike in a lot of other vehicles, it'll just let you shift to 2, and it won't let you shift any higher. This one lets you shift all the way to 5th while at a standstill. This is the first car that I've ever driven that has this feature that allows you to skip all those gears. The gauge cluster is fairly basic, but it looks really appealing to the eyes. You have your speedometer, your gas gauge of course, coolant temperature, and your tachometer, as well as in the middle, with the use of these buttons here, you can go back and forth between fuel economy, which the average is kind of wrong, just because I'm sitting and I reset it right when I first got the car. But it does have a real-time fuel economy gauge. Let's go back. It tells you your vehicle speed, and you can switch that between mile per hour and kilometers. Trip info, which is just your trip meters. Tire pressure check. Vehicle info, which shows you your oil pressure, transmission temperature, engine hours, coolant temperature, oil temperature, and back to oil pressure. It's reading a little high just because it's a cold engine. The radio is pretty basic. It does have Sirius satellite radio. However, with this rental car, it is not active, unfortunately, or I'd be listening to it. You also have the media player, which I believe it's in here. You have your auxiliary input jack and your USB input. You also have another 12-volt power point, as well as another little tray here. You also have another little area in here to store stuff. 2 cup holders here. They're now standard pretty much in all brands. Cup holders on the mat pockets. And overall, this car isn't too bad. It does have a CD player too, which I honestly didn't even notice that. So that's interesting. You can turn the screen off, turn it back on, go to your settings, more, outside temperature reading. Another thing about this car, you guys will find this interesting. It's got rear air conditioning. I didn't even know that this was a feature that was offered in cars this small, but it makes sense because of the third row seating that you have in the back. Now obviously, if you want to let people in here, what you would do is you would pull back on this lever here, and it gives you a little bit more room to get in the back. I'll go ahead and set these up kind of so you guys can see how much room there is. There's really not all that much room. This is clearly a car, or clearly a part of the car that's meant for kids or small adults. But it is a very nice feature that these seats fold down flat. And that's how you reset it. And of course you can do the same thing on the other side, which I will go ahead and do that right now. You also have another 12-volt power jack, one single pocket in the back in the driver's seat, 2 cargo tie downs, looks like. Nothing in the back of the passenger seat. You also have your interior light dimmer control, as well as your headlight controls right here to the left. Pretty standard location. The car does drive and handle pretty well. I have not had really much of an issue with this thing. It corners, and I mean as in, you know, parking lot style turns pretty well. It's got a really nice turn radius. Rear visibility isn't the best, but in this kind of car it typically isn't. But the motor's pretty quiet. It rides really nice. The seats are really comfortable. Picks up really quickly. The transmission in this car shifts really well too. Drives great.